Michelle Kosilek is an inmate in Massachusetts, and she is biologically a he, and she's needed surgery for a long time to complete her transition to be a transgender woman, and the decision has gone back and forth as to whether or not the authorities will let her get the procedure, because she is an inmate right now. A First Circuit Court panel said yes, she indeed can get the procedure. The Department of Corrections then turned around and said no, absolutely not. And then another panel weighed in and said no. So I think as of right now, they're saying no, but who knows exactly how the appeal process works, and if it gets to a higher up, how will they decide? So they're all over the place. And of course, I should add that she's on suicide watch without the surgery. She's repeatedly spoken about it, and I think even did some attempts to kill herself because she hasn't gotten the full transition to being a woman yet. So let's discuss this a little, because this is interesting. Now, I feel like I should give you this next piece of information, although one can argue whether or not it's relevant to the story. She was convicted of murder. So she murdered somebody. Now, again, I think you're going to have to decide on your own whether or not that weighs into the story. But let me go ahead and give you my line of thinking on this so you see where I'm coming from. Now, if you had brought up to me like a year and a half ago or even a year ago, this story, no, probably more like a year and a half or 2 years ago, this story, I probably would have leaned towards no. Don't let him get the surgery to make him a her. And I probably would have leaned on the fact that, well, this person committed murder, so why should you allow this person to get some sort of... To me, it almost would have sounded like somebody in prison saying, I don't like my nose, I want to get a nose job. And it's like, you fucking murdered somebody. What do you... nose job? Fuck you! Sit down and shut up. What are you talking about? That's ridiculous. But then somebody, I forget who, so forgive me if you're the person out there who explained this to me, but somebody explained this to me in a way where it totally changed my perspective. They said, no, you have to understand, just simply look at it as if it is a medical procedure which is necessary. So, like somebody's appendix burst and you need to get it fixed or they'll die. Like somebody's got some sort of an infection and they need antibiotics ASAP. Like somebody has any kind of medical condition which requires... I mean, if you're somebody in prison and you are a severely depressed person, you're clinically depressed, you're diagnosed as depressed, so they give you SSRIs and they give you whatever medicine is necessary according to doctors and psychiatrists and psychologists. So if you look at it from that perspective and you understand the issue of transgenderism through that perspective, then it becomes a no-brainer in the opposite direction. Because you go, well, if somebody's in prison and their appendix bursts or they have some sort of an issue that they need medical attention for, they get it, no questions asked, of course. So why is it any different for something like a transgender person who's telling you, look, I would rather be dead than be in this fake body? And then I also thought about it from this perspective. To not do the surgery is kind of like telling, so I'm a straight guy, so I'll use the straight guy example for this because it hits closest home for me if you describe it this way. So if you're a straight guy listening to the show right now, and you're in prison, and they force you every day to wake up, and you need to put on a dress, you need to put on fake boobs, you need to put a fake padded ass on, you need to put lipstick on, you need to put eyeshadow on, eyeliner on, you need to wear a wig, and you need to wear blush. And you have to speak in a voice that's higher in tone and more feminine in tone. If they force you while you're in prison to also do that, right? We would all say, you can't force them to do that? That's crazy. Sure, they're in prison. Sure, they're serving their sentence, and rightfully so for their punishment, assuming all the facts of the case are correct and the jury decided right. So you can punish them, and you can try to do rehabilitation, and you keep them behind bars, and they serve their debt to society. But to force them to put on a dress and eyeliner and eyeshadow and a wig and walk around all the time... you're telling them to deny who they are fundamentally, and one could argue that that would drive somebody crazy. That's like a form of torture. If you told me to reject who I know I am inside, reject my manhood, reject my alignment or my sexual orientation every day, and you force me to do it, and you force me to wear clothes that implicate that, and you force me essentially to be embarrassed and to feel shame because you're not allowing me to coincide with my reality, I would say, no, you can't do that, fuck off, and I would sue and say, you have to stop doing this. And today, I don't think that's any different from somebody who's transgender behind bars and needs the surgery to complete the transition. Now, again, I know there's going to be people who disagree with me, and I know there's going to be people who fall back on and rely heavily on the fact that they committed a crime and they're serving punishment, so no, they're not going to get anything like that. But again, in my mind, after it was explained to me and I really understood it, it seemed clear that to say I needed to go through this procedure is not the same as saying I want a nose job, is not the same as saying I want Botox, is not the same as saying I want to do some sort of elective procedure to enhance the way I look in a certain way. That's not what they're saying. What they're saying is, this is my reality. If I don't coincide with my reality, it is torture and I will kill myself. And under that way of thinking, of course it's torture to not allow this person to do it, and that shouldn't be allowed. They should be allowed to get that transgender surgery, no matter how heinous the crime. As long as they're serving their punishment to society in whatever way the court deemed necessary, right, then they should also be able to get that medical treatment, because that medical treatment is just that, medical treatment.